What's up, fellow golfer? Welcome back to another episode of the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Salter, the golf hypnotherapist, and I am thrilled, over the moon, that you are tuning in to another episode of this show. And if, hey, you're a first-time listener or still a relatively new listener, welcome. Ecstatic that you are here. This is the show designed to help you get unstuck out of your own way and to play and step into your potential. And the context, the foundation of this show is helping you to begin to understand that golf is merely a mirror of your personal development journey. And if you can begin to utilize golf as a mirror, you will quickly be able to recognize the many strengths you possess, as well as the many opportunities for growth that you have. Because I'll say it now, I'll say it 1,000 more times. When you show up to the golf course, you bring your whole self. So if you struggle with performance anxiety, imposter syndrome, timidness, fear, anger, or emotional control on the golf course, guess what? Those are not isolated incidents. You're absolutely struggling with those issues elsewhere in your life. I'm really excited for today's conversation because to be frank, it hits home. I've got a lot of personal relatability to the topic we're going to discuss today, and I'm going to dive right in. There's a time and place where good enough is good enough. But candidly, those moments are few and far between. And if you've been listening to this show for a long time, I have an imagination that one of the aspects that draws you to this show, aside from my humor, of course, and the amazing guests that we have on every other week, is the fact that when you find yourself in moments of solitude and isolation, when you wake up for the 5th consecutive night somewhere between 2 and 4 a.m., you hear these whispers, these voices. Sometimes they're critical. Fuck, why didn't you put in the extra reps? Why didn't you rehearse that presentation just one more time? Sometimes they're there to berate you, beat you down, and remind you, dude, you're capable of so much fucking more. Why are you playing small? Why are you dimming your light, holding back? Inevitably, when those moments pass, you find a bit of familiarity and comfort, once again, in good enough. Yet you always have this voice in your head that reminds you that you're capable of, destined to achieve so much more. Good enough is comfortable. And I want to tell you a personal story about one of my earliest experiences with good enough that was both exciting and humbling at the same time. And this will introduce you to the very much team nerd version of me, but there was this game in elementary school I used to play. It's called Challenge 24. And it's essentially a card game. You sit in a circle against your competitors, and there's a proctor that places a card down in the middle. It's a square card, rather large card. And each card has 4 numbers. And the person who touches his or her finger in the center of the card first has an opportunity to solve the card. Each card is worth a different number of points, 1, 2, or 3. And the goal of the game is to obviously accumulate as many points as possible. But the way that you accumulate points is by using all 4 numbers to equal the number 24. Quick example. Let's say a card is placed down. You see the numbers 5, 3, 3, 3. Relatively simple. 5 times 3 is 15. 3 times 3 is 9. 15 plus 9 is 24. There you go. You get the gist. I fell in love with this game. It really appealed to me because first, it was a competitive outlet. Second, I loved math. And third, I have a unique ability to process information quite quickly. So this game I felt was designed for me to excel. And we would play this game casually in our classes. Then we would play different classes, different grades throughout the school. And I had a streak where I just won tournament after tournament after tournament in this game. And I did some studying. I did a lot of practice at the time. But to be candid, I got so much praise, validation. I mean, I felt on top of the world winning this game over and over. And then we did a multi-elementary school tournament. And that meant I was competing against people I had never competed against before, people I did not know. Guess what? People who were, in fact, smarter and better than me at that game. And I'll never forget, I made it to the championship round. There might have been, let's say, 6 people at the table of the championship round. I got my ass kicked. I might have gotten 3rd place when all is said and done, but that was not fucking good enough. Here's the thing, though. I didn't change any of my preparation. I didn't do anything different to give myself every single opportunity I could to excel and ultimately win that particular tournament. And for whatever reason, the divine powers of the universe, I took that L pretty fucking hard. I remember at least telling myself that my parents were disappointed in me that I didn't get 1st place. Whether or not that's true, I have no fucking clue. But I used that feeling as fuel. And I knew there were a few more of these tournaments spread out throughout the next year. And I worked tirelessly. And what I mean as a 10 and then ultimately an 11-year-old boy working tirelessly, I would wake up before school and I would study and practice. And to be candid, ultimately go on to memorize every single card in the deck, which meant the moment the proctor put that card down, my finger was already in the middle there, and I'd take a glance at all 4 numbers, bada boom, bada bing, 24. And I won the next handful of multi-school tournaments with relative ease. Because what I did here, and this is the magic that I need you to begin to hear as you read between the lines or listen between the lines, I raised my standard. What I had done was not good enough to get me where I wanted to be. And after getting punched in the mouth and quickly humbled, I had a decision to make. I could settle for being, the big man on campus at Twin Ridge Elementary. Shout out, Go Pandas. That felt pretty funny to say out loud, I'm not going to lie. Or I could listen to that voice, those feelings of disgust, shame, regret, frustration, anger that I felt as a young boy, use them as fuel, do different, be different in order to achieve different. And that's what I did. But here's the funny thing, is I had to go through another evolution of this to really get the lesson. Because after I won a handful of these multi-school tournaments, I got the opportunity to play in front of the entire school against my principal. And in only a way that a 10-year-old boy could, I talked massive shit to my principal. I thought I was a shoo-in. I was going to kick his ass. I didn't do anything different. And here I was. I'd been competing against 9 and 10-year-olds. And I'm going up against let's see, Mr. Storm, you were probably in your 50s or 60s at this point. He's got some age, experience, wisdom, and intelligence on me. And there I was in front of the entire school, and I got my ass kicked again. Like, oh my goodness, I didn't do anything different. My standards weren't raised. And if you want bigger, greater results, you have got to raise your standards. And we're going to come back to this and unpack it further. But yet again, I found myself in a situation going up against greater levels of competition. In this case, the principal of my school is a 10-ish-year-old boy. And I didn't do anything different. I didn't prepare differently, study different, didn't change my mentality, my identity, nothing. And again, I'm 10. I get it. But the point is, I got my ass kicked because my habits, my actions, my study and preparation routines, in my mind, They were good enough. I could coast and I'd figure it out. Everything was on my side. I would win. That's not how life works. It's absolutely not how life works, because you have to understand that what gets you to a place of success or, being considered outstanding, it requires even more work, different being to stay there and keep climbing. And so many people make the mistake. They experience something incredible. And early on, this good enough experience, it feels like a victory. Maybe it's the new lifetime low on the course. Maybe it's landing the big client, the new sales accounts at work. Maybe it's hitting the all-time high in your savings or your investment accounts. Maybe it's getting engaged, getting married. Perhaps it's having a few consistent months of hitting the gym twice per week. But in reality, it's climbing a summit and mistaking your peak for a plateau. You think you've done something incredible. You think you've hit your potential, but the truth is you've just plateaued. It's climbing the first summit of many en route to achieving your peak potential. I wrote a couple numbers down. You've heard me talk about the word outstanding a lot. Outstanding means to stand out. And for me, this invites in the entire conversation around fear of success, the upper limit problem, because it's scary to stand out. And many of us, you, myself included, hesitate, pause, remain apprehensive and stuck in a place of inaction when we're on the verge of starting to stand out, because we open up all of these core wounds and beliefs and fears around judgment, abandonment, embarrassment, rejection, failure. But I want you to hear me on these numbers for a minute. And these are my numbers. You may or may not agree, and I, to be frank, don't care. I think this is a good framework for us. If you are truly considered great at what you do in your industry in the game of golf, you're better than about 90% of people. If you are considered outstanding, you're better than about 95% of people. And you can use different variations of words here. These are mine. If you are elite, you're better than 99% of people. And I want to give you a couple practical examples, some relatability. I mean, these numbers, these ranges start to make sense. Let's talk about golf. And shout out to ChatGPT for giving me some numbers on demand. Take these exactly for what they're worth. Best estimates, though, for male golfers who carry a handicap, about 1% of people are scratch or better. About 9% of people fall between scratch and 4.9. And then I also had it tell me that about 20% of people are between 5 and 10, or a single digit handicap greater than 5. Outside of golf, let's talk about body fat percentage. And these numbers were pulled just for men. And I found it quite interesting. I put this number in. The ChatGPT didn't give this to me. I kind of thought about what's a really lean, head turning lean. You see some dude at the beach, oh fuck, that guy's ripped. I estimated it to be about 8% body fat. Well, again, estimates, multiple sources online, about 1%, likely 0.5% of men have 8% or less body fat. Between 1 and 5% of men carry body fat between 8 and 12%. So that's kind of that outstanding range. And then 95 to 99% of people are 12% body fat or more. Let's go one more example. And this one has to do with total net worth. So to be considered great or in the top 10% of total net worth, your net worth needs to be around $971,000. And this was combined household. Let me be clear here just for nuance and specificity. To be in the top 5%, you need about a 1.17 million threshold. And the top 1% requires roughly 13.7 million. So again, these numbers, 90th percentile is great, 95th percentile is outstanding, 99 percentile is elite. Yet, you've grown comfortable with good enough. At times, again, good enough might feel like you've climbed the highest peak. Yet in reality, it's merely a plateau. Because in those moments of isolation and solitude, those late night moments when you wake between 2 and 4 a.m., you have those whispers reminding you, fuck, why didn't you do more? Fuck, you're capable of so much more. So why didn't you do more? Why didn't you be more to achieve more? Because I know as a listener to this show, good enough is not your ultimate goal. You're capable of so much more, yet you've grown comfortable. You've grown comfortable with good enough. It's as if you are on cruise control because A, it feels good, it's familiar, but B, you likely get a lot of validation, praise, respect from other people. But the reality is, you know in your mind that you're settling. That you are settling. And this invites in a unique aspect of the conversation. It's the big fish in the small pond or the small fish in the big pond. Which one is going to allow you to grow to become the biggest, best, tastiest, fastest fish? It's being the small fish in the big pond. So you can see what all the other big ass fucking fish are doing, eating, how they're swimming, how they're breathing, how they're sleeping to grow into the best version of a fish that you can be. And all jokes aside with the fish analogy here, that's the truth. So many of you are comfortable because you are the big fish in your unique small pond. Maybe you're considered one of the top golfers at your club and you've got a single-digit handicap. Obviously, that's probably a rare situation, but even just in your crew, your Saturday foursome or the 12 to 16 guys you play with every weekend, maybe you're the best golfer and you are a 5 handicap. And hey, again, 5 handicap, that's outstanding. Literally, if we go by those numbers, but you know you're capable of being scratch, yet you've settled. You've settled with good enough. And what does good enough really look like? We know what it sounds like in your head during those moments. We know what it feels like after a round in which you've vastly underperformed. Anger, frustration, disappointment, agitation, shame, guilt, regret. But what it really looks like, cutting corners, taking shortcuts, half-assing preparation and practice, pretending you don't care that much, trying to brush off or repress feelings of anger and frustration, playing it off like it's not a big deal. But the truth is you're fucking scared. You're scared to stand out. You're scared to go all in. You're scared to bet on yourself because what if you fail? I'm the oldest of 4. And I kid you not when I tell you that my parents literally used to call me the golden child. It was as if I could do no wrong. I was a straight A student. I did what I was told. I didn't throw raging parties when my parents were gone, just once, but I was in college. A little older, a little wiser that I should have done that sooner, but here we are. And my parents grew up 7 minutes from each other. They hadn't really left the state of Maryland, let alone traveled internationally. And here I am at 18, and I've lived in a couple different states. I pursue internships across the country, jobs. I've traveled internationally multiple times. I spent months at a time abroad. And I don't share this to boast about the unique experiences I've had. I share this to illustrate that in my little bubble or circle of life growing up, I had done a lot of really cool things that some of the people closest to me and around me hadn't. So naturally, it felt good to be able to share these experiences, but it also came with a level of like, oh, wow, that's so cool. Like you just felt like looked up to. There was this praise, this respect, almost like this admiration. And as good as it feels, I can now look back and see it led to me playing small. I didn't want to keep my foot on the gas. I began to find comfort in settling for good enough because there were moments where maybe it felt as if I was ruffling some feathers. I was breeding some resentment or envy by standing out so much, having these vastly different experiences, doing things vastly different than my parents, my siblings, my families. Like, I'll still never forget the conversation with my parents that I was going to leave my last full-time corporate job and do my own thing, purely all in on my own thing. Just a difference in life, generation, experiences that led to two polarized opinions and thought processes. Neither is good or bad, they just are. But I share this to really highlight, as you've kind of had that internal tug of war to keep pushing, keep your foot on the gas, to do something against the norm, to go against the grain, to bet on yourself, to go all in on a goal and a dream. You've likely encountered some resistance. Invisible resistance and blatant fucking obvious resistance. It's that resistance, though, that's kept you stuck, comfortable in a place of familiarity, just being good enough. You know, like, I'm a single-digit handicap golfer. That's pretty good. I've got $1 million in the bank or a good number of high-profile sales accounts. Like, pretty good. Yet, it's emotionally exhausting. Mentally exhausting, energetically draining to have to navigate this internal tug of war, this constant push and pull, denying your truth that you want more, you want to be bigger, better, stronger, faster, whatever it may be. You deny that voice. You deny your truth, your authenticity, and you've settled. You have settled for good enough. So my challenge here today, and we're not done. I know I always say there's a challenge. We got a lot more to cover, but like, I need you to be honest with yourself. When you are dishonest, there is a potent incongruency that is felt, seen, heard, experienced, not only in your subconscious mind, which is the driver for all that you desire to create and achieve, but that incongruency is experienced and felt by the fucking world, those around you. If you are truly content, at peace, with where you are in your business, your golf game, your marriage, your parenting, your health, your strength, your fitness, then fucking own it. There is no shame in that. I need you to be honest with yourself. You can't say that you want to be outstanding and then behave like everybody else. Everybody else is fucking fat, unhealthy, broke, stressed, anxious, and depressed. That's literally the definition of average and ordinary in America. If you want to be outstanding, remember that 95th percentile. If you want what the 5% have, you must be willing to do what the 95% are not. If you want to achieve different, you need to be different, do different. And I'll be the first to acknowledge that's scary. Simple, not easy. But as I've shared so many times before, it's normal to feel scared. It's not okay to remain stuck feeling scared. Take action anyway. The mistake that so many people make is they have this false belief that you can't feel scared and confident at the same time. You can't feel scared and take action. You absolutely fucking can. Scared is a natural human response. It's a reaction to an uncertain situation or circumstance. That's your subconscious trying to protect you. But the longer you stay scared, the more that scared sensation amplifies into a paralyzing fear. It's good to feel scared. That's where life is fucking lived. Take the action. Bet on yourself. Go all in. Action accelerates everything. Action alleviates anxiety. Action accelerates results. Action, action, action. Now, one more point on that, and then I'm going to shift gears, but it's still very much connected. And I think it's really just a reminder here. There's a difference between doing what it takes to be outstanding. Your brief moment of victory celebration that, I finally made it good enough. There's a difference between doing what it takes to be outstanding and then doing what it takes to remain outstanding. Change is the only constant in this life. And if you are not actively working to get better, to better yourself, somebody is outworking you. Somebody is doing more. So I want to pivot here because this is an interesting paradox of this good enough theme we're talking about. I've had the privilege of working with many individuals at the top of their respective industry and game. And what's so unique about many of these individuals is they feel as if they are not good enough. They have not done good enough, achieved good enough. And you hear this, your mind may immediately go to imposter syndrome. Okay, sure. But here's the productive way to view this. These individuals use this general experience and feeling that I'm not good enough or I haven't done a good enough job as fuel. It's the fuel that leads to them continuing to prepare, executing one more repetition, one more rehearsal, one more practice session. This feeling they're not good enough is the fuel that allows them, empowers them to continue taking relentless, massive fucking action. They don't allow this, I feel almost like the negative way to view this is imposter syndrome. Like, oh, woe is me. Like, I'm not good enough. I don't belong. I don't deserve to be here. Like, okay, I hear that. I've experienced that, to be candid. I think the upgrade here is to use that as fucking fuel. Push harder, prepare more, practice with more intentionality, more presence, more focus. Notice how I didn't just say practice more. You don't need to grind yourself into nothingness. But it's an interesting dichotomy because on one hand, I'm telling you, stop settling. You're in a zone of comfort right now. Do more, be more, achieve more. And then I'm also telling you the best of the best, the most successful have those voices of I'm not good enough. I haven't done good enough yet. And they use that as fuel to work harder, to be more patient, diligent, intentional in their decision making and their action taking. I'm going to give you one other unique angle around this theme, this topic of good enough. Which, by the way, if you need to pause here, digest this, go back and listen to the last 5, 10, 15 minutes. The invitation is to do so. I'm guilty of this next point, very incredibly guilty. I pride myself in my work ethic. I struggle to not go all fucking into the extreme end of the spectrum in everything I do. Some of you might know it or label as the all or nothing mentality. It's either I am all in or I don't try it at all, but I find a way to try to go all in on everything all at once. The result? Overwhelm, burnout, and just fucking mediocrity. Look, here's the truth. And this is something that 2 of my mentors have taught me. If you want to be outstanding, and this is just so ironic, you'll have to be okay with good enough in some, perhaps most areas of your life. Because if you try to be outstanding in every single area, then you're just on a path for overwhelm, burnout, and mediocrity. So think about that for a moment. And this really invites in the simple principle of less is more. Less is more. It invites in for an opportunity and an audit of what you're committed to versus merely interested in. It invites in an opportunity just to be fucking honest with yourself. Where are you truly willing to do what it takes to be outstanding? And where will you not lose any sleep if you commit to being good enough? And a simple example, maybe you are the CEO and founder of a business, the owner of a business, and your purpose, your ultimate goal is to scale the fuck out of your business and eventually get it ready for sale to create generational wealth for your family. You don't need to have 5 fully optimized 90-minute workouts per week. 3 effective, efficient 45-minute workouts per week is good enough. So think about that for a minute. I hope you heard the intentionality in the contrasted workout scenarios, because if you were to sit down with one of the best fitness trainers in the world, they could put together this most optimal plan. But if you're trying to be outstanding in your fitness, you're now taking precious time, energy, and resources that could be better spent on what you're telling me is your ultimate goal to grow and scale your business, ready for sale, generational wealth. And I see this mistake with golfers all the time, and I was guilty of it when I got started and really began taking the game seriously. I've got a huge background of competitive bodybuilding and powerlifting. I want the pump. I want the hypertrophy. Fuck all these spinny one-legged rotational shit, Sean Dykhoff, shout out to you. Awesome trainer, but you got me doing some crazy shit. And you know what? I don't care, because results over everything, and that motherfucker is getting me some great results. So if you need a golf-specific fitness trainer, go connect with Sean. I forget what episode of the podcast he was on, maybe around 78 to 82, somewhere in that range. He's awesome. But my point being, if I was telling him I want to be, in the best golf specific shape possible, then I can't be training like a fucking meathead. It's just, they're 2 different goals that require different prerequisite action steps. So it really demands honesty and intentionality, because being outstanding demands an unbalanced distribution of time, energy, attention, and resources. And you alone get to decide where you draw the good enough line in your life. Which domains of your life stay right behind or at that line, and which ones are worth pushing through to be outstanding. So maybe for you want to be outstanding in your business or your professional life and your family life. And maybe the right decision for you is to be honest about good enough in the game of golf. Probably not the example you expected me to lead with, but it might be a humble truth that you need to accept. But here's the best part. Maybe it's just for this season of life, because you've got 3 kids under 10 years old and they need you. But maybe you're in a different season of life. Your kids have grown. They've flown the nest. Motherfucker, go all in on golf. You've accumulated this wealth, this prestige for 20, 30 years. Your marriage is in a rock solid place. Be outstanding in golf. Go all in. So I think that's the underlying takeaway there that kind of happened organically, is there are seasons of life. There are chapters. And you get to evaluate, you get to be intentional and selective about what it is you're committed to being outstanding in during this chapter of life. And that can change. That, to be frank, will change. It should change. The most important part is to remain honest with yourself, because your subconscious recognizes incongruency. The people around you, the universe, recognizes the incongruency when you talk the talk and you fail to walk the walk. Because to be outstanding, you can't take shortcuts. You can't cut corners. You can't cheat yourself. You just can't. The universe is always watching. Yet to be outstanding, there are many areas of your life where you'll have to find a sense of peace, contentment with good enough. And because many of you are such go, high achieving, high performing individuals, and I'm so grateful you listen to this podcast. So grateful. If I could offer any other additional, what's the word I'm looking for? Messaging, feedback. You've got to communicate. You have to be so ruthlessly honest with yourself and honest with the closest people in your life about what you want, because you need the right people around you. And that conversation in and of itself serves as a filter to kind of distance you from those people who aren't on board. But you also need their support. They need to understand why achieving A, B, and C in this area of your life is so fucking important. They need to understand what they can do for you. But more importantly, or equally important, you need to understand where and how you can still meet their needs. And then this could be a very intimate relationship specific lens through which you're having these conversations, as well as with your children. Like, hey, daddy's got to travel for work because of X, Y, and Z. Daddy's got a big goal. This is how it's going to benefit the family. This is how it's going to impact you in such a positive way. I'm doing this for you. Here's how, here's why. And this is how and where we're going to experience the fruits of my labor together. You have a variation of that conversation with your wife, your significant other, and your children. You need to be honest with yourself and honest with those around you. Because trust me, I've made that fucking mistake. For so long, I downplayed how important my work, my career, my coaching is. And it always came in between me and my relationship, because there'd be a part of me that would want to appease the significant other, be like, you know what? No, it's not that important. Like, you're the most important thing. And it sounds fucking cruel, but it's my truth. This comes first for me. And that's tough to acknowledge, because society tells you it's backwards. And there's still a beautiful way that an intimate relationship and your professional goals and ambitions can coexist beautifully and grow together. It starts with honesty. It starts with honest communication, congruency in your actions. And I feel like we've gone a couple different directions in this conversation, all related. I almost kicked off by saying this conversation really is going to take place at the intersection of good enough, fear of success, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, a harsh inner critic, because they're all so interconnected and interrelated. But it's my hope that one of your key points is an opportunity to do some honest reflection. Are you comfortable? Have you settled? Are you truly at peace with good enough in one or many areas of your life? Is there an incongruency present? Are you talking the talk but failing to walk the walk, and feeling the effect of that during those quiet moments of solitude and isolation? Are you sick of those voices? They're loud. They're demoralizing. They're berating you. They're critical. They're judgmental. Look, if you want to be outstanding, it takes sacrifice. It takes commitment. You can only be outstanding in so few things in this lifetime, and you get to decide what those things are and where you'll settle and be at peace and content with good enough. It can work. It's an unbalanced approach. If you think you can balance being great at all these things, you are sorely fucking mistaken. Being outstanding requires imbalance, honesty, impeccable communication, hard conversation, sacrifice, and a relentless resilience to pursue it until the very end. And we're going to put a pin in this conversation here. I thank you so much for listening. I don't have the words to express how much joy I have preparing for recording these episodes, hearing from you after a new episode comes out. You love the guest, or this point stood out to you in the solo episode. So thank you so much for all of your DMs, your emails. I sincerely appreciate it. I read and respond to every single one. There's no AI or VA taking care of it for me. I have one ask for you. Because I'll tell you what, there's a huge incongruency between the number of you listening and the number of ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So my ask is simple. If you found value in today's conversation, any conversation today. This is the 89th episode, I believe. It takes 30 seconds right now. Scroll to the bottom of the Apple Podcast or the Spotify page. Leave a rating. Leave a review. It's truly the best way to support me in the show. I thank you so much for listening. Go listen to this again. You need to hear it twice. There's so much to digest. Have a phenomenal rest of your day. Hit them straight this weekend, and I will catch you in the next episode.